What's up everyone, I'm Calamontos, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing the brand new Fairy type fast move, Fairy Wind. Fairy Wind is an exact clone of Mud Shot, Thunder Shock, Psycho Cut and Poison Sting, and you already know how good those fast moves are. Very high energy gains but very minimal damage output. This means that it's going to make a lot of these Fairy types a lot more dynamic. They're actually going to be able to reach the coverage moves to fight back against some of the Pokemon that should typically beat Fairy types. In this video, I'm going to be running 3 Pokemon that recently gained access to Fairy Wind. I would not recommend you do this as it does leave for some very big holes in your team where you just have absolutely no coverage. You may have noticed that I have changed the layout slightly on the background here as I've made everything a little bit bigger, so hopefully for people watching on their phone everything should be a bit clearer, and as well I have now included the IVs of the Pokemon that I'm running so you know how good or bad they are and whether that affects their performance or not. You can be the judge of that. But with that being said, let's get into the question of the day. Which other Fairy type or non-Fairy type Pokemon would you like to see learn Fairy Wind in the future? Now this has to be for Pokemon that do learn Fairy Wind in the main series games, so you can't suggest a Pokemon like Xerneas as it doesn't learn Fairy Wind in the main series games. Let me know in the comment section below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle here, we lead into an Ariados, so not a very good lead. We're going to instantly swap into the Galarian Weezing here. My opponent switches into a Magneton, and they've already got 2 very strong answers to Fairy types. But because of the Fairy Wind, we're able to get to these overheats at an extremely fast pace, and we're able to get to the second one here and get both shields down from this Magneton, and that is really good. At this point, there's no point shielding here. The Magneton will get to the second Magnet Bomb before we get to another overheat, so I'm going to come in with the Slurpuff here. I'm probably going to have to double shield to take out the Magneton. For some reason they go for a discharge there, which is not the play because Magnet Bomb costs the same energy, and they switch there, and they're also able to get to a charge move before I can throw my move, which is not how the game should be. It should cost a turn to get to the charge move, which is super annoying there, but unfortunately it happened. But I'm able to catch a cross poison here on the Mawile. Mawile does resist poison type damage because of the steel typing. They get to 1 more cross poison here, but I'm able to fully Fairy Wind, farm them down. They have a Primeape in the back, so I'm going straight for the Play Rough here, and this one-shots the Primeape. They come back in with the Magneton. They try to farm me down, but I'm able to get to another Play Rough here. And we take out the Magneton, and we're somehow able to beat a team with 2 very strong Fairy type counters there because of the insane energy generation of Fairy Wind. Now into the next game, we lead into a Lantern here, one of the Pokemon that was recently buffed as it now has access to Surf, a much cheaper energy charge move than the Hydro Pump, so it does make Lantern a lot more consistent. We go for an Energy Ball here. The opponent does shield it up. We're going to go for 1 more Energy Ball before they even throw their next move, and we get both shields down from this Lantern. We're going to let this move go through. Surf nearly takes us out. We switch into Mawile. My opponent switches into the Drapion here. So this is actually a pretty good matchup for us. We resist everything but the Aqua Tail, which is unfortunate. But we're going for a Play Rough here. And Play Rough takes out the Drapion. My opponent comes back in with the Lantern here, and at this point I am going to shield this up. I want to get this Play Rough damage off onto the Lantern, as Play Rough from a Shadow Mawile will still do a massive amount of damage to the Lantern, and at this point I'm happy to let the Mawile go down. We should be able to come in with the Weezing and farm them down. But my opponent switches into their final Pokemon. It is a Dragonair, Shadow Dragonair as well. They're going for a charge move. It's just an Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail doesn't do an awful lot of damage. We overfarm a little bit. We go for the Play Rough. We take out the Dragonair, and at this point we'll be able to get to an Overheat, and even resisted Overheat is easily enough to take out the Lantern from this range, and we take that game. Into the next game, we lead Slurpuff into a Galvantula, so a pretty neutral lead here. They have to go for the discharge if they want to deal any sort of damage, but I'm going to call that they're going for a lunge, but my opponent does go for a discharge, so a very good play there. Just go straight for the move that actually deals damage instead of trying to debuff me. I switch here, trying to catch the next move, which I thought might be a lunge this time, and they do throw a lunge this time, so that is perfect. Unfortunately, we would have CMP tied here to the next move, so I choose not to throw my energy yet. They go for a discharge this time, and unfortunately they have a Talonflame, and here is the massive issue for this team. We don't have a single move, fast or charge move, to hit for any sort of damage up against fire types, so I am relying on resisted moves only, and at this point this Talonflame is going to be able to completely sweep my team here. There's no point shielding, they're going to get to another charge move here, and now it's just whether Mawile can Fairy Wind farm down this Talonflame before they get to the next charge move. The answer is no, and I just got 3v1'd by a Talonflame, and unfortunately when you're running a meme team like this, that can definitely happen. Unfortunately the fairy types just don't quite have enough coverage to take on all of the Pokemon that do resist the fairy typing. Into this game here, we led into a Trevenant, and I'm going to go over in my energy. They go for the Shadow Ball, which is perfect because I end up shielding it. I go for a Flamethrower, my opponent does shield that up. I should be able to get to the second Flamethrower here just before they reach the next Shadow Ball, and we get the second shield from my opponent. So I'm going to switch into the Weezing now. We can tank a Shadow Ball, and my opponent does go for the Shadow Ball, and they're going to stay in, and unfortunately they do get to another charge move here. And at this point, I just let the Weezing go down, so unfortunately there, I couldn't really shield because I expect my opponent probably would have just switched out of that matchup. Here we come in with Mawile. We are finally able to get to a charge move up against this Trevenant to take them out. What are they going to have in the back? They have a Lantern, a Water Gun Lantern. This is not looking good. We have to go for Play Rough. Iron Head is double resisted by the Water and Electric typing. We switch into the Slurpuff here, but we kind of need to shield this up. And my opponent has a Tentacruel, another Pokemon that has seen a buff with the recent move update, and unfortunately Tentacruel is another Pokemon that absolutely destroys this team because it does resist all of the moves from my team aside from Energy Ball, which is neutral. And yeah, there's not a lot we could have done up against the Tentacruel there, so unfortunately we do lose that game. GG's to that opponent. Into the next game, we lead into an Azumarill. How I like to play this is I go straight for the Energy Ball. I go for one more Fairy Wind and try to catch the Play Rough on the Weezing. My opponent holds on to their energy. We lag a little bit. They switch into a Mandibuzz, so they are clearly core broken by these Fairy types. We go for the Play Rough. It lands, it does so much damage, and at this point my opponent just decides to concede the match. Not sure if they were lagging or if they gave up, but we look to be in a very comfortable position. Into the next game, we lead into another Azumarill here, so I'm going to play this out pretty much exactly the same, I think. Go for the Energy Ball here, go for one Fairy Wind and then switch out, but my opponent decides to switch out first, so I'm going for a Flamethrower here before they get to a Sludge Bomb or Frenzy Plant. My opponent lets it go through, so I switch into the Weezing here, and I'm able to catch a Sludge Bomb, which is only neutral, and I'm also able to Fairy Wind, farm them down before they get to the next charge move. I'm going for a Play Rough here up against the Azumarill. This will do a lot of damage, and we get a shield from this Azumarill, and at this point we're looking to be in a very good position, as long as they don't have a Fire type in the back. So here, I'm going to come in with the Mawile here, and I will end up shielding from this Azumarill. I know it's just going to be an Ice Beam or Play Rough, but I don't care. I don't know what their final Pokemon is. So I'm going to farm up a ton of energy, go for the Iron Head up against the Azumarill. I actually undercharge it a bit, but it still KOs. And they do have a Fire type in the back, which is super annoying because, like I said, I can't hit for anything other than resisted damage up against this Alolan Marowak, but fortunately they're not running Fire Spin, they're running Hex, and they're also running Shadow Ball, which means it does take them a little bit longer to get to the charge move. I go for a Play Rough, and my opponent does shield this time, so I switch into the Slurpuff here, forcing them to throw their energy. They go for another Shadow Ball, and now can I get to the Play Rough in time? Yes I can. Is this going to be enough to take them out? No, but one more Fairy Wind just barely takes out the Marowak, and we take that game. So we got super fortunate there that the Alolan Marowak was running Hex. Into the next game, we lead into a Fire Fang Houndoom. Not a very good lead here, as both charge moves are resisted, but I kind of have to stay in because I don't want this facing up against my Mawile because Fire Fangs will absolutely shred through it. So I am able to get two energy balls here, and we get both shields from this Houndoom. Now I'm going to come in with the Galarian Weezing here, go for an overheat, but my opponent makes an insane catch onto a Lunatone, and that is resisted, and unfortunately they've still got a ton of energy on the Houndoom. So I'm after no shield this and then go all the way up to the double Iron Heads here, throw them back to back. This one will be taking out the Lunatone, and I have to hope that they come back in with the Houndoom here, and I'm going to go for the move straight away, but they come in with a Stunfisk, and at this point that's game over. Iron Head is resisted by the electric typing. They're also running Mud Shot, and I just decide to quit the game there. So insane catch by that opponent. Because I saw the Houndoom, I thought, well, I kind of underestimated them, but they made some very good plays there and just completely outsmarted me. Into this game, we led into a Azumarill. They switch into a Trevenant, so potentially this is a double Ghost team here. I definitely prefer seeing the Trevenant over an Alolan Marowak, so they do bait me with the Seed Bomb, unfortunately, but it's a CMP type. We go for the Flamethrower, we take out the Trevenant, and my opponent comes back in with the Azumarill. I'm going to catch the move here on the Galarian Weezing, but they just go for an Ice Beam, so kind of unfortunate there. I was expecting a Play Rough. My opponent comes in with the Sableye, and at this point we're in a very good position. We go for a Play Rough, we take out the Sableye, and we're in a very, very good position here. We go for a Play Rough here up against the Azumarill. We lag a ton, but we're going to see we land the Play Rough. It's a CMP tie, which was absolutely perfect. They're going to go for an Ice Beam, take out my Weezing. I come in with the Mawile here, and I think my opponent just concedes the match there. They realise it's over, and I'm able to take that game. Into the next game, we lead into a Scrafty, so a very good lead, and actually it's a very good lead for my entire team. They switch into the Charmer here in the form of Clefable. We're going for an Iron Head. This will easily take out the Clefable, but unfortunately it looks like they're going to be able to farm down this Shadow Mawile, which is the thing I absolutely hate about Charm, is that even in bad type matchups, they can just fast move, farm down a lot of the Glacier Pokemon. I come in with the Weezing here, and we should be able to get to a Play Rough just before they get to their next charge move, and this is perfect. We will be taking out this Clefable. They come back in with Scrafty, which is kind of strange. What on earth have they got in the back? Play Rough, easily enough to take out the Scrafty, and they've got a Whiscash. They probably realise we've got Energy Ball on the Slurpuff, and they know it's GG's, so they decide to concede the match there. Into the next game, we lead into a Clefable this time, so I switch into the Galarian Weezing here. My opponent responds with a Defense Deoxys here, so I'm going to be able to get to a Play Rough here. Play Rough does a decent amount of damage, and I'm able to get to an Overheat on a CMP tie with whatever this Deoxys is throwing. We get a shield from the opponent, and I'm happy to let this go down. But they go for a Rock Slide. Rock Slide isn't enough to take us out, and my opponent is forced to throw another charge move before I get to the next Overheat. And Rock Slide does now take me out. I come in with the Slurpuff here. I'm going to go for an Energy Ball up against this Deoxys. We land it, we take out the Deoxys. I instantly switch into the Mawile here. My opponent is staying in, and they're able to catch the Iron Head on a Registeel, which is a perfect play there. Really well played there. I'm able to get to another Iron Head before this Registeel is able to get to another charge move, and now we've got them into the yellow with resisted charge moves, which is really nice. They go for a Focus Blast. I let it go through. I'm going to put all my faith into the Slurpuff here. We go for a Flamethrower before they get to the next charge move. Flamethrower takes out the Registeel, and at this point it's a case of whether we can survive enough charms to get to the back-to-back charge moves and take out this Clefable. We go for the first Energy Ball here. Energy Ball and Flamethrower both deal the same amount of damage, have the same energy, but the Energy Ball does have the chance to debuff them. Is it going to take them out? No, but one more Fairy Wind again is just barely able to take out this Clefable there, and we take that game. And now going into the final battle of this video, we lead into another Scrafty. Really good lead for us, and once again they switch into a Deoxys. Is this going to be the same team that I just faced? We go for an Energy Ball here, and this time we're going to try to... Actually, we're just going to no-shield this. There's no point switching out, really, because well, our entire team does very well up against the Scrafty. So we go for another energy ball here, and at this point I think I will shield this up and then switch into the Mawile just in case they had the back-to-back Psycho boosts. And now my opponent is coming back in with Scrafty, so this is making me think what on earth is in the back if they're coming into a fairy type with their Scrafty. I'm going to go for an Iron Head here. I think this probably will KO the Scrafty. We're going to see. Iron Head just barely doesn't KO, and they do get to another charge move, which is unfortunate. I'll just let this go through. I'll come in with the Weezing. It should be an easy matchup, but they have a Nidoqueen, and unfortunately, I just don't think we're going to be able to win this game at all. We go for the Overheat. We do land it, but it just doesn't do enough. Perhaps if this was a Shadow Nidoqueen, that would have completely flipped the game, but it's not. So unfortunately, we're not in a very good position here. I'm just going to let this go through. They'll probably go for a double Earth Power, but they don't. They go for the Poison Fang. They're just playing it safe, and at this point, there's no point shielding. Nidoqueen will be able to take me out here, so I end up losing that game. So GG's to that opponent there. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, then make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. Now, as far as this team goes, if you want to actually run a triple fairy team, I definitely recommend you run a Pokemon like Tapu Fini with the water type damage from Water Gun and Surf, as otherwise you're just going to be absolutely destroyed by fire types, as you saw here in this gameplay. When I saw a Talonflame, that was pretty much game over, and I was very lucky to overcome that Alola Marowak because they weren't running any fire type moves. I want to quickly give you guys a heads up for anyone that suggested for me to build one of the Pokemon that recently gained a new move here with the Season 12 update. Unfortunately, I don't have any charge TMs right now, so it's going to be very difficult for me to build a lot of the new Pokemon, so do just bear that in mind. I'm not specifically ignoring you guys' suggestions, I just can't build them right now, but I hope you do understand that. And with that being said, let's get into the shoutouts from my previous video. So firstly, we got Ripley32, who wishes they buffed Decidueye. Right now its moveset is absolutely awful, but it does learn some really good moves. So Niantic did Decidueye super dirty with its move pool, and when you think about Trevenant, shares the same typing, it's absolutely insane, and Decidueye could be even better with Leaf Blade instead of the Seed Bomb, but unfortunately Decidueye's moveset is awful. They're also very happy with the nerf to Walrein and Registeel. Next, we've got Jad, who says, unpopular opinion, but I kinda wanted Counter to get a slight nerf, and as well they want a whole overhaul to the bug moves like they did with Poison not too long ago. Now, we did actually see an overhaul to the bug typing quite a while ago, but obviously it wasn't substantial enough because bug is still a pretty underrepresented typing, but unfortunately that's just the nature of the bug typing. Bugs aren't supposed to be super strong, so unfortunately not a lot of them do get much play in Go Battle League. And finally, we've got BDR Pogo, who says they love to see Shelgon get Dragon Claw. Currently, it learns Flamethrower, which is a really good coverage charge move, and it's got a decent stat product. But unfortunately, the other move that you typically run on Shelgon is Twister, which is an absolutely awful dragon type charge move, so Dragon Claw would be a massive upgrade for it. So with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.